Well, in case you didn't know, graffiti art is still considered a crime in New York City, with the added potential of a hefty fine for vandalism. Property owners may disagree, but plenty of people think the NYPD has plenty of more important problems to deal with. So today, we're talking street art on display at a newly renovated venue in Park Slope called the 210 Gallery that's committed to exhibiting the works of Brooklyn-based graffiti artists. Now, before the gallery owner explains why this show now, we meet the controversial artist who calls himself ANAC for Art is Not a Crime.
ANAC, who's been creating graffiti art in New York since 2012, and recently got a lot of attention for scattering images of Abraham Lincoln around the city. Well, starting Thursday, his street art will move inside to the 210 Gallery on 6th Avenue in a show called Art is Not the Crime. We welcome ANAC to BK Live, but as you can see, he's opted not to show his face, because you know how it is. He could get in trouble with the law. And joining him is 210 Gallery owner and curator Mikhail Novikov. Great to have you both here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, anytime.
Thank you.
Okay, street art, NYC, you have to love it. Mikhail,
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your gallery and why it was so important to do this exhibit?
Well, 210 Gallery has been in a functioning art space in South Park Slope since probably 2008. Unfortunately, in June of this year, they actually closed their doors. So at the time, I was working as a creative manufacturer at Industry City, had my own studio, and I was looking for a new space. As coincidence has it, I actually met Troy, who is the artist and the vision behind 210 Gallery. And he unfortunately had to close it, so I took over the space. And from that kind of, at the time, as fate may have it, a friend of mine, who is a street artist, is looking to transition into a new, outlet. And that was the idea behind it. It was, let's make a street art gallery. There's not too many of them in Brooklyn. In fact, I can probably count on the fingers how many there are. So I feel like it's going to be a perfect staple to the neighborhood. It's going to create a great impact, give people a way to see something different, something that's kind of controversial, and of course, give him some freedom of expression, as he always needs it.
Okay.
Well, freedom is something that's in short supply when the police are chasing you down for your art. Artists have always been persecuted, but artists who are working in aerosol now seem to be the only ones that the NYPD are after.
Well, yeah, I believe that if we describe street art differently, we express ourselves differently. Well, the thing is, law enforcement and NYPD, I feel like if they were re-educated on what street art actually meant, they would actually reevaluate the whole form of street art. So I believe that, street art is a form of expression, and that's a way for artists to express ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, you have been arrested for your street art, correct?
No,
haven't been.
There was no arrest affiliated with ANAC.
Okay. So you feel the need to still, be anonymous.
Due to these injustices and, the allegations were false, that's why I feel that it's important to remain anonymous. So that's why I continue, to wear a bandana and hide my identity.
So, Mikhail, the art that you have on display at 210 is obviously not some 8th grade kid just putting his tag on every door on the MTA subway. But it seems like that's sort of the evolution. Kids who learn to tag and look at things in a different way have to evolve until they're at a point where they are an artist and they have a perspective and something to say with those same tools. So how do we move someone faster from that point to the point where they can be in your gallery?
Well, I think, to say the least, definitely, this gallery is for the underdog. That's why I like that you highlighted that definition. This is the space for somebody who is trying to transition. Right. Like you said, it's a person who is putting out there into the streets, using the city as its canvas. And what we're doing is, we don't want to take away that element. We want to still keep street art, even if it's indoors. So what this gallery specifically will exhibit for this show is a lot of that. A lot of art that brings the street inside. Installations that amplify that, and they are really unique. So, and that's what we're focused on. So the exhibitions going forward, we're going to try to capture that essence. We're going to try to capture the urban environment, the streets of Brooklyn especially, and continue pushing that expression into our space. And I definitely want to highlight the fact that it's a space for the underdog, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, speaking of spaces for the underdog, back to your art. Can you tell us a little bit about the Abraham Lincoln piece? Like, what was the motivation behind that? And
Abraham Lincoln? All right, well, to start it off, when we think of Abraham Lincoln, we think of him as, a person who made a huge impact to the world, He was the first president to free the slaves. So I portray him as a symbol of freedom, and I strongly believe in freedom of expression. Now, how this correlates with my work is that I strongly believe that people have the right to express themselves, whether it be through music, art, literature, etc. So I can understand how artists feel. I'm an artist myself. We put our heart, sweat, and soul into the work. So what we do is we like to create a connection and relate to them, So that's why we make sure that we have that connection.
Abraham face is. It's a symbol.
Well, I'm looking at the face right now. I'm like, okay.
It's the symbol for the expression. It's the symbol of freedom. It's what it stands for. So.
So do either of you get mad with being lumped in with, because clearly this is art. If somebody had this in a gallery, people would be buying it. Or when you see, as you do, but when you see even the street work you had of him pushing the cart down the street, that's clearly what I, in my mind, see as art. So do you get mad being lumped in with everybody who's ever just wrote "School sucks" on a wall?
I mean, I think to me, honestly, I would definitely say street art is fine art. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Of course, the city officials, they will all put it down as vandalism.
Yeah.
Despite what the public may say, all the adversity that street artists face is because of that. So to say somebody who is, is going to go ahead and tag either their, name or say, whatever, they're drunk. It happens all the time. People like to go out and go wild. It does kind of deteriorate the meaning behind street art, but that's why I feel like people need to understand the difference between street art and graffiti. Although they are of the same genre, they're not the same thing. It comes from the essence of, yes, you are painting the streets, but it's about what you're painting, not exactly painting the streets. So conceptually speaking, I think street art is transitioning to be fine art, and we can see that with, with Banksy. I mean, I'm sure you guys know Banksy made a visit to New York.
You can come through my Bushwick neighborhood, and there are literally graffiti tours that walk through the neighborhood.
Just saw it with ANAC. We had one girl who's cutting up Tupac pictures and putting them on a Matisse, and then you have the craft that you're making this templated and spraying. I don't see any difference.
So how can people check out this art? Can you tell us about the pop-up exhibit?
So the show is actually really unique. I mean, we've partnered up with some really key influence players here. One of our partners is Car2Go, which is, I'm sure you know, it's a point-to-point service car. They gave us one of their cars so that the artist actually can express his vision for the Brooklyn street art community through the car. And what's really cool about that is not only that we managed to capture that, we got another local business, Trinity Printing, to do the entire execution of his vision. So they're wrapping the car, they're printing it, so it's all done locally. It's not, outsourced. It's within the neighborhood. What's really cool about this idea, I think that what people are going to really enjoy is that after the show is done, that car is going back to their fleet. So
just be in the rotation?
Yeah.
Right. So that means if you're lucky enough out there to snatch it, you can drive an art exhibit, essentially, part of art exhibit. So this is like the next step to street art. This is what we want to define as street art.
Yeah.
Of course, we also have Brooklyn Brewery, who's going to give us, our guests beers for the night to make sure they're enjoying the Thursday. And,
Cheers.
And for the classy people, of course, we got champagne, but not just any kind of champagne, guys. We got the artist will paint the Moet Rose next to her Imperial bottles.
Something different, It's a unique approach.
Exactly, yeah.
And what are the hours for the event?
So it starts at 7 and it ends at 10 p.m. That's our grand opening on Thursday, November 19th.
Okay.
The show will continue until Sunday of this week, and after that, we're closing up,
All right, found you Thursday. Save me a Moet.
There you go. ANAC, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, guys.
Take care, guys.
Thank you so much.